Welcome to the Health Revolution, the program that shows you how to have a life of vibrant well-being. In a world full of noisy health trends, we bring you clarity. We reveal the science-backed strategies that truly work in a sea of fads. We explore the physical strength, emotional resilience, and mental mastery. These are the keys to an enriched life. Join us for inspiring interviews with champions who've conquered life's health challenges. Are you ready to unlock your potential to live with vitality and purpose? Then join the Health Revolution. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison, health and fitness expert, speaker, and a mom who understands. Let's embark on this transformative quest. Together, we're about to change the game, starting now. The information provided in this show is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. Viewers should use their own discretion and consult with a healthcare professional for personalized guidance and recommendations. Welcome, everybody. You are watching the Health Revolution, and we are so excited that you are joining us today. No matter which way you're tuning into us, please do not forget to hit the subscribe button because we want to stay connected to you. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison, and our show is all about elevating the physical strength, the emotional resilience, and the mental mastery to have that comprehensive approach to leading an optimal life. And I'm excited about today's episode because we are diving into unlocking spiritual power and elevating the soul. Now, these can be, let's be honest, we've known for this to be buzz phrases in these last few years, but they're not buzz phrases. It's something that's an element that can transform our life and take it to new levels. And today is worth talking about. I'm excited about our guest. She is somebody who we are going to do a deep dive in all of this and how this does apply to our life and how we can apply it. First, take a look at this. Meet Chee Vue, known as Master Shaman PaLiChee, whose spiritual journey began at the tender age of 2. After experiencing several head injuries and comas, she developed a profound connection to the spiritual world, unlocking the ability to perceive chi energy and psychic visions. Over the years, Master Shaman PaLiChee has dedicated her life to healing the mind, body, and soul through ancient Hmong shamanic traditions. In 2011, she founded PaLiChee Healing, a sanctuary for those seeking profound transformation and holistic wellness. Today, we will learn how Master Shaman PaLiChee empowers others to break through blockages and elevate their spiritual journey like never before. Master Shaman PaLiChee, welcome to the show. How are you?
Warm blessings. Doing really well here, Adriana.
I'm so excited for our conversation because it's, spiritual journey is something that we don't hold a lot of space of in society. And can you talk a little bit about your journey and how it began so very young?
Yes, so when I was, I'd say about 3 years old, 2 to 3, in between that time, there was a huge, phenomenal experience that I went through in the bedroom. And it was a vision that I got that a huge angel came to me and gave me a gift and went away. So after that point, I had comas and so many shamanic illnesses that happened. So that was about 2 to 3 years old.
And then from there, obviously, as you are growing and then entering adulthood, was this something that you started to explore, or was this something that you didn't necessarily do a deeper dive until much later?
Yes, so I always felt and like the need to look at the sky. So there's so much when I was about, I would say, grade school to teenage, always saying to my mom, I'm never gonna do shamanic work. I'm never gonna, you know, uh, do that, in the Hmong culture because I wanted to fit in, because I wanted to fit in with American society. And coming from a refugee camp at the age of 1 and landing here as refugees and growing up literally American, that's not what I wanted to do as a teenager. I wanted to fit in. But it was the, how can I say this? It was the going forward, and trying to move forward, and my identity is what caused me to rebel. And I realized this later on. And with the psychic energies and gifts that I had, it was like all these things coming into my mind, and I was trying to just avoid them, literally denying them.
And for our viewers who are not well versed in the Hmong culture, can you share a little bit about that? And also, what does it mean to embrace shamanic practices?
Yes. So Hmong culture has everything to do with spirits, the soul. We believe in the shaman. The shaman is the guidance. Anciently, there's an ancient first shaman that was basically revered in the Hmong culture named Chee Vue or Shou, and sort of like the Jesus of Hmong, right? So anyways, we had this person that we revered and we believed in them. So every shaman that came after him and had the gifts and gifted abilities, we would believe and we would be guided by that shaman in the village, right? So Hmong people goes very anciently. They were also the highest that was, I would say, went through a ton of hurt culturally throughout different um, times that went on through their times anciently. So there's a lot of hurt in that culture, and they come from the mountains, is what everybody should know. They come from the mountain. They are mountain people. So that's the Hmong culture. We have a ton of traditions that we follow, and some have dropped off. So, but most of the traditions came from the shaman led.
And so the core belief from shamanic practices, what would you say it is? What would help those who are not familiar with it understand?
The core belief in shamanism for Hmong people, now I can't say this for everybody, but for the Hmong culture, has to do with the soul. Has to do that the soul is your asset, and anything that is imbalanced within the body, whether it's an illness or whether it's emotional, physically, socially, anything, it's kind of like saying energy, everything. In the shaman, the soul is everything. Spirits are everything. And we live together parallel.
So as you were growing up here in the Western world, at what point did you revisit? So you mentioned that you didn't really embrace it as when you were younger, and then there came a turning point. Was there just a time frame in which it really drew you back to shamanic culture?
Yes, these were the times of illnesses, the shamanic illnesses. So unexplainable illnesses is when I say shamanic illnesses, I literally mean illnesses that were unexplainable that just came and went. Or sometimes it would come in like stomach aches or headaches, and it would just not go away until a shaman did something or there was spiritual healing of some sort that was done. And this was after the comas that I had. So I had 3 very severe comas. One was a knife that hit my head right here. I had to go to the doctor, but my parents didn't opt to go to the doctor because they didn't believe in the Western ways. So therefore, I was taken back home. Doctor probably, when I woke up, I was home. Okay. My mom said that I didn't get to go to the doctor, though they almost opted for it, but they got scared, so they went home. And what happened was I woke up 6 days later in a coma. And after that coma, and I was only, I would say, right at the 4 years old as well. So 4, I wasn't 5 yet. So woke up from that. And then after that, I started to say, what's going on as a 4 years old? I had this going on with the angel thing. And now I have this thing this trauma that got hit to me. And so what am I supposed to do now? And what am I supposed to believe now is what I thought. And then two other comas after that as well. So after that time, that was the time when I started to feel my gifted abilities, but then I still wasn't convinced. Only up until the very last piece when I finally was convinced and I finally gave in was actually after I got married at 17 years old.
And so then moving through adulthood and just, as the years are going by, what are some of reflecting in terms of shamanic wisdom and the culture has stayed with you and brought you to the point where you then embrace the role of Master Shaman?
Yes. So the turning point, that part that made me fully go in was basically I thought about all the whole process along the way. Like, if I didn't get to this point, how did I get to this point was the question. As a living, breathing, still healthy, I would never have gotten here without all those shamanic healings. Even though I rebelled it at like a younger teenage time, so like 12 to 14 or something, it was like a rebellion. Like, I'm never gonna do, chicken, like, sacrifice the chicken, and we're gonna eat chicken anyway, so they will sacrifice the chicken, right? So then I'm never gonna pluck a chicken's feather. I'm never going to, do the boiling water and now put the chicken in the pot and start plucking them for the shamanic rituals. This took like a whole day to do, right? Like the whole process. So I'm never going to do this. I want to do something else. I want to be out there. I want to do things with my life. This is the thought, right? As a 12 to 14-year-old. And so what brought me to saying, yes, I will, is the illnesses that I got out of. It's almost like I call it going into a black hole and then coming out of that black hole alive. And through those very traumatic yet very miraculous times is when it was like, okay, I think I'm going to give in. And to answer your question on the very last part is the trauma that I had in my life, which was a relationship trauma that brought a life and death situation in my life. So therefore, literally overnight was when I was like, whether I gave in or not, I started vibrating bodily wise, vibrating. And then spirit was just talking through.
How do you um, how do you rationalize or conceptualize the integration with shamanic rituals and what you have come to embrace and say the Western practices of just excelling in life and doing all things to put one foot in front of the other? How do they intertwine?
They intertwine through the society that basically I lived. So because of society, because there is this there's professional belief, and then there's like, the American dream, because we landed here. So I have to go by with my experience of being here at a young age, growing up in my culture, yet watching, TNT, movies that were out there, classic movies. I loved the classic movies. So then it painted a picture for me of what is this profession that I'm going towards? What would that be? And in school, also going to school, it's like intertwined because of here's this person that's you're going to identify yourself with. So then here's me, my culture. I have to try to put those two together. It's up to me to put those two together so that I can operate a certain way in society, right? So that I'm not judged and I don't feel like I'm going to be shunned out or something. So it goes hand in hand in that way. But in the shamanic aspect on healing the soul, healing physical or emotional, then you have to go with what makes sense to do what at what time. So bodily, emotional, what makes sense to do that, and then what makes sense to go to the doctor, right? When it has to maybe have to do with surgery or something like that. And that's where I see them intertwining in that perspective, if that makes sense.
So then looking at the mind, body, and soul, how do you go deep to address the soul and what's needing to be addressed? How do you how does one start to recognize a disconnect, or maybe there has never been a connection between mind, body, and soul?
One starts to recognize this from a shamanic perspective when there is a really deep sadness or, for example, grief. And grief is lasting, more than a year, 2 years, 3 years. It keeps going on to 5 years. And grief is still there. So something has happened with the disconnect with the body and the soul. We look at it this way, right, as a shaman. And then the person may start having migraines, ongoing migraines after year 2 and 3, and then maybe more. And it just starts happening more things in the body. This starts to have a intertwine now in regards to, do I go to Western medicine or is there something else out there? There's an alternative way that I can connect with my body and soul to know what is happening with me if I'm going through grief for so long. That's just one example, right?
So when do you go to see a Western doctor or physician or specialist versus really sticking to shamanic roots that you have?
I go to a Western doctor if if it's something that I can't take care of, even if it's a cut or even if it's like a tear in the skin, like physical tear. Even with a physical tear, and I'll give you one example. One time my son got hit and he slipped and fell in the bath tub, right? It was slippery, kind of slippery, not too bad. It slipped and fell and he hit his underneath of his skin. There was basically he did this and there was almost like a hole there.
Oh boy.
Ouch, right?
Yeah.
And throughout the night, I got so scared. But I also didn't want him to get stitches. So we believe that if there's a physical cut or sliver in the skin and it doesn't need to be, then, and you can help it with spiritual healing, shamanic healing, then you do it. But once it cannot be healed and it's too deep and it's not fully can't the scar can't heal there, then we will go to the doctor. Like this is the last piece that we would do, right? Because we believe in the body can heal itself. So in the whole night I'm doing, we call it lighted blowing, where I put the candle in my mouth and I blow and I do a ritual, doing the ritual. I take about 2 hours to do the ritual, and then 2 days later, it healed on its own, this hole that was there. And it looked like, and if I look at it now, it looks just like it was basically sealed by, what do you call it? The needle
Stitch.
sewing
Yeah.
stitches. Yeah,
Yeah.
so literally like stitches that was just a line there now. So, and day 3, it was just like stitches that were gone, like healed. A scar was there. So we go at the last moment.
And it seems like lately there's been a greater awareness of that it's not just Western practices and modern medicine, so to speak, but that what all can add to healing, that can add to prevention, that preventative care that can keep our bodies just where we would want for it to be. And would you agree with that there seems to be a recognition between East
Yes.
and West, more traditional, but then more modern medicines, that you find that the integration is
Yes.
recognized?
Yes, I do, Adriana. I by healing so many different clients, I can see that that's coming through where there's that recognition of I need more than just going to the doctor, or after so many healings, I need to go to the doctor. So there's these two perspectives that come in hand with science and with spiritual, and they've been more coming in together. How can I say it? Intertwining together even deeper,
So we're going to
if
continue
that makes sense.
this. Yes, we're going to continue the conversation. First, we're going to take a break. Stay right there. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back after this. Hey, I'm Adriana, and welcome back to Fit Bites. Today, let's talk about preventing diabetes, a growing concern, especially as we age. Now, the good news is that with some proactive steps, we can reduce our risk and maintain a healthy lifestyle. Start by focusing on your diet. Choose whole grains over refined carbs. Think brown rice, quinoa, and whole wheat bread. Now, these foods help to regulate blood sugar levels and keep you fuller longer. Incorporate plenty of vegetables, lean proteins, and healthy fats like those in nuts, seeds, and olive oil. Portion control is key. Eating smaller, balanced meals throughout the day helps prevent blood sugar spikes. Avoid sugary snacks and drinks that can cause your blood sugar to rise rapidly. Physical activity is a powerful tool for diabetes prevention. Aim for at least 30 minutes of moderate exercise most days of the week. Activities like brisk walking, cycling, and strength training can help your body use insulin more efficiently and keep your blood sugar levels in check. Now, keep an eye on your weight too. Maintain a healthy weight can significantly reduce your risk of developing diabetes. If you're carrying extra pounds, even a modest weight loss can make a big difference. Lastly, regular checkups with your healthcare provider are crucial. Monitoring your blood sugar levels and discussing any concerns with your doctor can help catch potential issues early. Remember, prevention is all about making smart, healthy choices every single day. By staying active, eating well, and managing your weight, you can keep diabetes at bay. Stay tuned for more Fit Bites with Adriana. Welcome back to the Health Revolution. Our guest today, Master Shaman PaLiChee, and we're talking about unlocking spiritual power and elevating the soul and how we can do so in perhaps in ways that we have not known before. And Master Shaman PaLiChee, before the break, you and I were talking about the integration between more modern medicines and traditional practices that have shown to be of great benefit. And what do you see with those whom you work with that tend to be a more common issue, situation, blockage, ailment? What patterns are you noticing these days?
What I'm really noticing is the mental health part of everybody. So it's the illness, emotional illness is what we call it, an illness because it's an imbalance in the body. And these emotional illnesses from whether it's the past, we call it also past lives that could possibly have turned on these emotional illnesses, has somehow affected the client the most in their life. So trauma.
And with trauma, that's more of, as I'm hearing you say it, it's taking on a global term. Perhaps that something that completely disrupts, maybe a setback, maybe something physical, maybe just some emotional news that is hard to process. And where does it show up? What are some examples of how this shows up in society?
So the trauma shows up more in relationships, relationship types of trauma, anything that has to do with relationship. And this is emotional trauma. So, that's where it shows up the most in whether it's a relationship with the self, relationship with a loved, somebody love relationships, a romantic relationship, or relationship with family members. So all these all around anchoring, or I say anchoring, it's overarching the person's emotional trauma. And this is the piece societally that we are headed towards trying to fix, so to speak, trying to heal and help with mostly everybody. Everybody.
Does the level of trauma or hurt, does the severity of it reflect or highlight the intensity of healing that needs to be embraced? In other words, if someone goes through something very, very severe, is there a correlation with the amount of time it would take to heal, or it just depends on the type of hurt that they're experiencing?
It depends on the type of hurt, of the type of hurt trauma that they've gone through, or the type of situation that they went through, and it also depends how long they've been holding it in. The amount of time that they've been trying to deal with it or cope with it themselves. And if they haven't coped with it, and usually it doesn't happen that easily, then it just depends on how much energy or how much spiritually we need to work to gather them back together again, like the soul piece.
How much time ideally does it take to go through the process? And I know that obviously each situation is different, but is there an ideal protocol? Is there an ideal process path that someone can take based on how you work with others that would be most ideal?
Yes. I've said there's some that can be 4 weeks, 8 weeks. And I work with them in this way, to basically deal with the trauma so that they can decode or be decoded and then recoded, mentally, emotionally. And that helps with everything else as well. With ones that can't eat certain foods, then they start to eat certain foods within this whole trauma release is what I call it, decoding and then recoding.
What about in the case of someone who maybe doesn't believe they have time to process it? They're just, they're running on empty. They're spread themselves so thin. Maybe their line of work is such that so much is commanding the amount of responsibility, so they can't even take time to think about themselves. And so then it becomes this type of hamster wheel that they're just going. What would you say to the one person who's like, I wish I could just take time, have me time, but I just don't see it happening?
Then they would just have to get a healing, and that they don't do anything in that session. And they are just there, present, if they want to be. They don't have to be present either, but they can be present and they can be distance. And we can just do a one off session to get things done and healed. And then at the end, if they're there on the call, so to speak, and they're listening, they're there, then after about a week or so, they'll start to notice some changes. And I just call that manifesting, right? Manifesting through the changes. At the same time, it's a healing through the changes. Uh, and they are sometimes unaware of what it was that hit them, right? What it was that hit them to clear the way, but it clears the way. So that's always how it happened throughout the sessions that I've done.
So a lot of the work begins with, say, that person being open-minded to the idea that that shamanic practices can be beneficial. And so, have you ever had a situation where someone has had pushback because maybe the beliefs that they've been exposed to, the spiritual beliefs, religious beliefs, that that maybe they're feeling conflicted. Like, this seems great, but it's not aligned with how what I knew growing up. Have you come across that before?
Plenty of times, plenty of times. And they would be very skeptical of what is it that's going to heal them or how they're going to get healed. And like they ask me, how did you do that? After I do it, I usually just approach them with a psychic reading. Like they don't talk, I just talk. I'm the one talking. And I'm telling them about a certain main thing that happened to them, maybe within the last week, the last month. One main thing that maybe had happened to them to allow them to awaken a little bit in themselves. And what was that? What is the trauma? And I can go deep in that trauma that they've never told anybody about. And they're like, how did you know that? That's a secret, that I've kept, even from my parents. And I said, well, this is what I see. This is the main thing that you need right now. And they're just awed. So that usually hits the nail on the head, is what I've been told by people that I've crossed paths with, and they resisted anything spiritual.
Why? Well, let me back up. What is the purpose of a psychic reading, and why does it get a bad rap these days?
I'm not sure why it gets a bad rap. Maybe some people has said some things about psychic readers. Maybe there are some cons out there, but I'm not sure why it would get a bad rap. Same with shamans. I've heard that, through the grapevines, that the shamans have been known as bad witchcraft. And there are bad and good ones, yes. Just like people, there are good and bad ones, right? Or animals or anything, right? There's always a two side to it. But you must be willing to trust when you find a good one, right? And you have to be seeking the good one. You have to be seeking healing, not also seeking just because you're curious. And then you might find someone that is a con, right? So it's the law of attraction that works here. So psychic readings, to answer that part of the question, is psychic readings are to give the person a perspective that perhaps they were looking for but didn't know how to seek it and or confirm what they were just thinking. So it helps them to make decisions.
Do a lot of people come to you with in that aspect, the psychic readings piece, to because there's a fork in the road, maybe that they're not quite sure, they're worried about the future, what's happening, is it is there fear behind why some people might want to just know more, or what can you say about that?
Yes. People come to me for psychic readings because they want to know if I can see them, if I can see something about them. That's like the very first initial thing. And once I'm able to talk to them without them telling me anything about their life, even their name, sometimes I don't even know, or birth dates, then they are more prone to trust that I know something. And that's very important to me in my shamanic aspect so that I can actually help them. Once they are able to trust what I'm saying, what I'm seeing, right?
And what are some of your approaches to addressing the mind, body, and the soul from the spiritual aspect? How are there, or what are some of your practices that you like to align or bridge the gap and make the connection with mind, body, and soul?
So meditation is the first go-to that I would tell, anybody, whether a person on the street, whether you are a client, whether you're a friend, a foe, whatever. I always say, do meditation, go back to the inner self. And if you've done enough, then that's when you can start to perhaps dive deeper into what meditation really is. And most people think of meditation as, a happy place, or a bringing peace, or de-stressing from work, whatever they may think of it. But once you start to dive deep into it, like one time I had somebody come and say, I want to learn from you. I want to be a shaman. I want to, do everything that you do. And I said, well, go meditate for 6 months and then come back. I'm not going to work with you right now. And he says, why? And I said, because your level of vibration is not quite there. Don't get offended, but you need to be at a certain level before I can work with you. So he goes back, meditates for 6 months, and messages me and says, hey, I've meditated for 6 months and some crazy things has happened in my life. And I said, well, good. Now do it for another 6 months and see where that goes. And then he wanted to actually become a student. And I said, continue that, and then you'll know when it's time. So meditation is one of the first go-tos to connect the body, mind, and the soul, not just spirit, but the soul, because there's more to the spirit. It is the soul.
These days there seems to be discord in society. There's a whole lot of emotional, just emotional. There's that level of reactivity that's happening, whether in our local news and then beyond. It just seems like there's a lot of having a hard time, especially for the last 4 years. There's been a great deal of that. Why do you think that's been? What is your take on how we're struggling and the missing pieces behind it as a society?
As a society, we are struggling. I believe, anyways, it is because the part that it's missing is the soul. The soul is not listening to what the how can I say, the person is not listening to what the soul needs. And the soul is telling us that we need something that's very important to us, but we keep being drawn to something else that we feel that we need, but actually, if we think about it, we don't really need it. For example, money. The soul is telling you, hey, you don't need to work this hard for what you're working for. But we're telling ourselves, yes, we do. We need it. And then you're being drained of energy through the body. And then, of course, ailments come. But you're being drained through the body because of what you're choosing, but you're not listening to what your body and soul really is telling you what you need. So that's the disconnect.
How do we unlearn that if we're so used to it? Or what if a viewer is watching and they kind of shrug their shoulders like, well, I guess it makes sense, but I'm not quite sure how to turn things around. I'm not used to embracing this. What would you say to that person?
I would say listen to your body, and you have to go with the flow of where your body is telling you. Don't wait till that moment when you're feeling a hip ache or a arthritis turning on, or suddenly your heart starts feeling weird and it's got these, flutters going in there, and then there's like pain at the chest, or there's migraines that keeps going on and on and on because you're sitting in front of a computer so long, or sitting so long, or standing so long, right? Don't wait for that moment to come, because that's going to be your breaking moment. Yes, that's going to convince you. I'm not here to convince you. It's your body that's going to convince you. So if you're still asking that question, that means you haven't gotten to that point yet where you know that you need to change. You haven't gotten there. And let's wait till that happens if you want to make that choice to wait.
The one thing I can appreciate about you is that there's this level of calmness that exudes even in our conversation. There's this level of peace, and I'm just recognizing, because it's not, it's not something that we're used to seeing, just weaving in and out of day-to-day life and the people that we interact with. And so I think it's incredible that you have this sense of this peace that's exuding through the screen. And so I just have to hold space and recognize that. I think that's incredible.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I don't intend to exude this, But through many years of, I say over 10 years of ongoing meditations daily, and through thinking back to all those times of the shamanic illnesses where they were unexplainable and not having to go to the doctor. And when I did, we did go to the doctors at those times because it was so heavy, still unexplainable, but being healed through that, whether it was my, you know, somebody in my family that helped me through that, grandmother, father, mom, or myself going through that, it brings me to appreciate what I have for myself in my life, and that I'm still here today, still talking in front of you, Adriana, and whoever else that's going to be watching, because this appreciation humbles you down. It humbles you down that you, yes, you can be scrambling to, do your business. I have PaLiChee healing out there. It's a business, but I didn't choose to do this business. It was brought to me here. You go do this because people need your help, and people need to see a shaman out there someday. And maybe it's today. And this was 2011. So coming
And I
from the corporate world.
Yes. And I do want to talk about PaLiChee healing. And first, we're going to take a quick commercial break. Stay put. We're coming right back for you. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back after this. Thank you so much for watching The Health Revolution. Our show is growing, and it's all thanks to viewers like you. No matter how you found us, please hit the subscribe button so we can stay connected and continue to deliver amazing content to you.
Introducing Launchpad, the perfect partner to help you launch your dream project to the world. We know that time is of the essence, and we're here to help you make the most of it. With Launchpad, you'll get access to the most advanced digital tools and strategies to take your idea from a mere concept to a fully fledged success. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur or a seasoned pro, we have everything you need to make your mark in the world. Launchpad, your ultimate launch partner.
We can take our own health into our own hands. Okay, so we'll kind of expand on that. So I take a lot of vitamins every day. Long before I started this business, my wife has had me taking my vitamin C, my B complexes, amino acids every single solitary day, and I still do, even though I still do IVs as well. But when you take vitamins orally, you get 15 to 20% of them. Some people get less because they have autoimmune issues. Some people have a lot of inflammation issues, whatever the case may be, so they don't get the absorption that they need to be getting. So they don't get their immune system built up. Doing the mobile IVs, I'm able to take your immune system, I'm able to naturally boost it.
Welcome back to the Health Revolution. We're spending quality time with our guest today, Master Shaman PaLiChee, and we are talking about unlocking spiritual power, the elevating the soul, and how can we do so really embracing some unique practices that many of us could very well not have been exposed to before. And Master Shaman PaLiChee, we before the break, you were talking about how in terms of really embracing, understanding where we are as a society, and where the disconnect. We talked about the meditation, how that is such a beneficial principle and act to do. Now I'm curious about you. You started to talk about PaLiChee healing, and talk a little bit about that, and in your practice and all the things that are part of it.
So, not my choice to start it. It's all started. So, after coming out of the corporate world, um, and I didn't choose to come out. Actually, I was booted out, laid off, right, in 2011. And 6 months prior to that happening to me at the job and the workforce, there was some layoffs going on, right? So 6 months after that, I was given the message from my spirit guides, hey, you're going to be doing our work. And I said, what? What does this all mean? So one day at my desk, I was typing on my computer and doing analysis in Treasury, and they came and suddenly I hear this voice say that to me. So I was awed by it. I was like, "What's going on? Is this my dream job that's coming up for me?" So this was already in the making of me being in the shamanic world for a few years. And then this is actually so when I say shamanic world, some people are like, well, weren't you a shaman like way young? No, I was not. At the age of about 28 years old is when I became a full-fledged shaman. And then that's 2011 is when that happened to me as well. So then I 6 months before I was prompted, and then in about March of 2011 was when it all happened, and I felt like a backpack was lifted off of my back when I got out of the corporate world. But then I was on to, in the next 2 months after that, I was on to building a website, to creating PaLiChee healing, and that was born. And I was like, I don't even know how I did this. I never built a website. I never did all this. And it just all happened. I just kind of listened to my guides, and this all happened like literally, I felt like it was overnight, but it was about 2 months. And it was up and running. And then I was able to start healing people and doing psychic readings. So
So
it's
you do
born.
this. So you do this on a global basis, right? So then that exponential reach in not only just in the United States, but and beyond, those who just are really drawn to your practices or who are interested in your practices. Talk about the Enlightenment program. Talk about your program that you have. And I'd like to talk a little bit. I would like to bring up our slide that we have and say a little bit about what the Enlightenment program that you have and what we can learn from it.
So the 11X Enlightenment came about because there was demand for it. Again, God led, spirit led. And so what it does is it helps you to transform your traumas. And this is past life traumas to this lifetime trauma and any lifetime traumas that you had, whether it's emotional, physical, whatever trauma that it is, to decode and then to recode you in the mindset to be able to now become empowered and transform and then elevate your soul to the highest that you can elevate while you are in the program. So this is an on-demand, and then also you're working with me every week as well.
And so this is something that is it for anyone, like say man or woman, someone who's just really struggling to get past their blockage, they're just on and they're wanting to continue on their path and just and be at a greater sense of peace.
Yeah, so this is for someone that is serious about becoming into their highest being. So meaning that I call it becoming a shamanic practitioner, but at the same time, you can call it anything you like as a unique practitioner of your own spiritual gifted abilities, because that's literally what it opens up when you're in the program is your unique gifted abilities. And you can also be someone that wants, so man or woman doesn't matter. It's whoever wants to elevate your soul this lifetime to the highest that they can go and then beyond, right? So that's where we take you in this program. It's not just eliminating your traumas, so to speak.
And so obviously we have a QR code there for the audience to grab, and we're going to take a quick commercial break. Stay right there. We are coming right for you. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back after this. Welcome back to the Health Revolution. We've been talking about unlocking spiritual power and elevating the soul with our guest today, Master Shaman PaLiChee. And where can we find you in the virtual space?
You can find me on my Linktree at Master PaLiChee, as well as www.falithehealing.com. If you just go to those two places, you'll find everything else about me. My YouTube channel, Master Shaman PaLiChee as well.
And so that handle is also on social media, so Instagram, and then also on Facebook as well, did you say?
Yeah. Yes.
And what do you have going on for the remainder of 2024, entering 2025? What can we expect? What can we anticipate?
So there's a book coming up between 2024 and 2025, a memoir of my shamanic memoir, I call it, having to do with the universe. And then there's a soul cleansing retreat that is coming up as well. So if you are interested in anything like that, then you come on over to www.falithehealing.com to check that out and check for updates. Most of the updates are going to be done through Facebook at Master Shaman PaLiChee or through the lives. Sometimes that I'll have those freeing Friday lives on YouTube where I just go live and just say, ask a question, or, if you want a free card pull, then we'll do that. Or if you want to talk about anything, then we can do that. But I'll come out about once or twice a month to do that on YouTube.
And so this is to mean that we can expect your voice, you're continuing to grow your voice and be in this space of having conversations, speaking about shamanic practices, and just being in a variety of different spaces to connect with those who are interested.
Yes, for sure. I am out there, and my voice is not going to close, right? The soul does not close their voice. The soul wants to speak. The soul wants to come out and, do what the soul needs to do in this lifetime. And I know that every soul out there is wanting this, is needing this. There's an urgency for this to happen right about now.
I 100% agree. And Master Shaman PaLiChee, thank you so much for your time, your energy, and being able to explain in detail how we can really elevate the soul. Thank you for being here.
Yes, you're welcome. And thank you for having me as well. And everybody that's watching, warmest blessings to everyone.
And for our viewers, of course, you can find us on the web. Our website is thehealthrevolutiontv.com. You can subscribe to our newsletter. You can also email us with any show episode ideas that you might have. Upper left-hand corner of your screen, you'll see our QR code. Feel free to grab that as the crow flies. And then, of course, each and every single week, you can find us on E360 TV every Tuesday and Thursday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. And that is all the time that we have for today. Until next time, please take care of yourselves, and we will see you soon.